Your number's too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend, 'cause I've heard it all before.
Hey, it's Julie Davis here with our first edition of our 2022 Women in Real Estate Success Series. And I am very delighted to introduce you to my very special guest today, reigning from all the way down the south coast of New South Wales in a little tourist town and retirement village town, a lot of retirees, Christine, Bateman's Bay. And my mum actually till last year lived at Tomican, so I know the area really well.
Wow, I'm a Tomican local for 30 years.
Oh, wow. So she lived at Barlings Beach, and she's just moved up to the coast to me. So,
oh, lovely.
Yeah, which is great. So I know the area. Of course, Canberra is my hometown, and so I have many trips to Bateman's Bay. So I bet you were an absolute breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I don't know whether the real estate world was
that
complimentary. Probably didn't know what they were signing up.
Well, let me tell you. Well, let's tell our viewers today and those listening is that in 2001 you went for a job interview and thought, I'll give this a crack. Never have been to an open house, never had any real experience, but thought, well, let's see how it goes. Let's fast forward 12 months, and you actually were number one in the LJ Hooker network, winning you a trip to San Francisco within your first year.
Yeah, number one as far as the new talent. So of all the people that started internationally in their first year, I kind of broke some records there and ended up taking out best new talent for their franchise.
That's amazing. Give us an idea, Christine, of like how many transactions would have that been back in the day?
I think I did around about 50 transactions in my first year.
Yeah, which is awesome. Really amazing.
Was.
And of course, your peers said that you really had an X factor, and there's no doubt looking at what everything that you've achieved, and now being the principal of my agent, Christian Ewin, what did I do there? Blooper there. Christine Ewin, my agent, down in Bateman's Bay. It's a team of about 10, Christine. Yeah. Which is great, and you also had the opportunity to be a keynote speaker at the Australian Franchise Conference.
Yeah, that was for Rain and Horn.
Was it?
Yeah. So I became number one in my first year at Rain and Horn. I was probably 7 years in the industry by then, and I was the first girl to ever win that. So that was a big.
Go for the girls.
That was a big one. Yeah, I stood up and said, how good is it to be a girl right now? There was 9 boys on the stage and me in the top 10. So it was nice.
Yeah. And look, this is actually why I started doing the interviews, because we have so many amazing women in real estate. And I personally think that women have that, I guess, that something extra that men don't have.
Sure.
And I think it's we have got so many incredible role models, and for those listening today, I'm sure that they're going to be very inspired by your story. But I guess the big one, let's talk about the big one.
Okay.
Which was just last year, 2021, the winner of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales Small Agency of the Year.
I know.
That is the big one.
That was huge.
Yes.
It was very different for me to lead a team. It's okay to put my name on the door, and you think that doesn't bring you automatic success, because agents are extremely selfish. And so just because you're a great real estate agent doesn't mean that you're going to be a great leader. So I always went in thinking, gosh, I hope I can inspire others and grow an amazing team of girls. And for us to be recognised with that award was just unbelievable. And so now we are the nominee for New South Wales. So we've just put in for the Australian award. So we will be representing New South Wales for the Small Business Agents again.
That's fantastic.
Let's see how we go.
Last year I was a judge for the REI Queensland award. And I know, let me tell you inside information, I know how tough it is. I know I was very blessed. One of my clients, he won the small agency award. I didn't judge that, so there was no favoritism there. It was very well deserved, and he was such a worthy recipient because of I guess the love that he has for his people and how genuine he is. And I think, that's the ingredient for success.
It is.
So if we go right back to day one,
Yeah.
when you're about to enter the industry, and on reflection, what is it that you wish you had have known before you come into the industry?
I think that I didn't really struggle with the format of real estate. I was given a blueprint on how to make a lot of money and how to, prospect and do all the key tasks. Mine was self-belief, 100%. I come from a blue-collar family. I was so worried that my family and my friends would think I was a bit of a wanker going into real estate. What happens if I made a lot of money? And what if I started driving a BMW and taking overseas trips? And it was very goal focused. And my coach was always about my goals and hitting my goals and what did I want to do personally. And I'd never set a goal. So I found that was confronting to me. And I wish that I had have known that I was worth it, that I was worthy, and that it was okay to be successful. I think that I had this idea of this was what my life was going to be like, that I would just, get a job, one day buy a house, pay it off, go on the pension. I knew nothing more because that's pretty much what I'd seen from my family, my mum and dad.
The model that you grew up with, yeah?
Yeah. So why was I going to be deserving of anything more? Like that only happened to other people. And so I wish someone had kind of knocked that self-doubt out of me and said, hey, you're worth it. You deserve this. You can do this.
Yeah.
I reckon that was probably the biggest head struggle that I had, was that I was nearly embarrassed of my success and I played it down because I was so worried that people would judge me.
Wow. How do you feel now about that?
I guess that always sticks with me. I guess that some things are in the journey of real estate and what I've witnessed in real estate has probably terrified me to a point where I think, I'm kind of glad that there is still that humble country girl in me that is very grounded, and I kind of don't buy into my own propaganda.
Yeah, and that's exactly, humility is such an important attribute to have.
Yeah, I mean, people still say, oh, gee, you're doing well, you must be making a lot of money. And you go, that used to make me cringe inside. Now I go, yeah, working hard, head down,
Yeah,
bum
and
up,
sometimes
just trying
people
to
don't
deflect.
have the ability to ask better questions as
No,
well. And that's the first thing that they say, that they don't actually really understand what goes into real estate
yeah.
and the hours of sweat and tears. So, in your journey, you've had several learning opportunities, or what we can say is that, what have been the biggest learning opportunities you've had through um, lessons that you've learned?
There's been so many lessons I've learned. I mean, if I was talking to somebody that had just come into the industry, I'd say try and walk before you run. I think that there's this thing in real estate where people feel as though that they need to fake it before they make it, and they don't want to ask dumb questions. So they all become a bit of an authority. And I think over the 20 years of me being in the industry and training a lot of people, I could say one of the things I always tell them is leave your ego at the door. Don't worry about asking stupid questions, and don't have bum covering become your new way of dealing with real estate. A lot of agents will just say the first thing that comes into their mind, and they think, I just want to know the answer. If you don't know the answer, just say, You
Yeah.
know what? I'll have to get back to you on that. I actually don't know that one, or good question. I still say to people now, wow, I actually have never had someone ask me that. I'll have to go and find out. That's going
Yeah.
to be something new. I think it just creates an immediate sense of trust that you're not saying, I know everything as a young whippersnapper. And when you go into someone's home and you're pricing it and they start talking about properties that they might have compared their home with, do your research, go in well prepared, but be prepared to fall on your sword if you don't know the answer, get educated, because otherwise you're never going to learn. You're always going to be faking it. And what'll happen
Yeah.
is that you'll start telling white lies that'll end up being big lies.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm just getting back on my screen here. Um, and what we have talked briefly about your success,
Mm.
but what would you consider has been your real success in real estate?
I just don't trade truth for dollars. I've never been a commission hound. I think that's something that I worked out very, very quickly. I connect, I'm a good connector. I connect with people very easily. I find that I build rapport very quickly, but it's probably very organic. It's just something I don't think you can even teach. It's something where I feel like my biggest success is that I don't struggle telling people the truth. I don't struggle with hard conversations. I find it very easy to be honest. And look, to be fair, it's very, very hard job. Sometimes you're going into a home that's, the owner thinks it's their castle, it doesn't present well. And it's like, how do you go into someone's house, tell them their kid's ugly and still remain friends and then get them to employ you? I mean, you've got to be a bit tactful. But I find that just by telling people the truth, not telling them what they want to hear and being honest with them opens a dialogue of trust straight away. And
Absolutely.
they've got to trust me because um, I'm their ally in this, and they can't start a relationship with me where they think I'm the enemy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that would be always my thing. And I'm quite prepared to let people make decisions as far as when they're selling their home. You get them an offer. I find that hard pressure tactic of saying, oh, you should take the
Oh,
offer.
yeah.
I,
Love
I
that.
that's
Yeah.
just not who I am. I just say to them, hey, I'm under your instructions. What do you want me to do? You want me to cut them loose? We can find another buyer.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
doesn't work out, then, maybe you can rent it out or wait
Yeah.
till the market.
Give
I'm
them options.
very soft. It's funny how you become a, a well-regarded agent. So there's this natural thing where people think that you're hungry and hard-nosed and you're a tough negotiator. I would say I'm exactly the opposite to that. I play the long game and I don't bully my owners and I don't bully buyers. All I do is facilitate the deal and
Yeah.
hopefully keep the deal as smooth as possible and make everyone happy. And that's probably what I've learned is not to count the dollars. The minute that an agent gets dollar signs, they smell the commission breath and then they're going to dig their heels in a negotiation.
Yeah. And it's so true what when just, before when you said like, crawl before or walk before you run. And
Yes.
often on the outside, our industry looks pretty cruisy and got, the nice car, all of that sort of thing. What if, because often we'll have somebody that's fairly new in the industry listening to our series and just wondering, perhaps that they might be ready to quit, might be ready to leave their agency, they might be doubting themselves. What would be the advice you would give them?
Get yourself a mentor. Get yourself somebody that will tell you that they've been through the same thing. And I think the hardest journey is climbing the hill. And usually people quit just right at the apex. Just
Yeah,
when you're about to roll over that hill and start to get some momentum is when people throw their hands in the air and give up. And that's when if you could just push through till you get to the top, then you can do a bit of autopilot. You've
yeah,
already built your brand, you've built yourself, you've got yourself some leads and a little bit of leverage in the marketplace. Get yourself a good coach, get yourself a mentor, go shadow someone. I did. I went and shadowed somebody that was an $800,000 writer because I wanted to know what they did that was
What
different.
behaviours
Stay
they had.
curious. Stay curious. Again, that's about being humble. Problem is, you know, new agents make a few sales and they get a big head and they get their tail in the air and then they become know-it-alls.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
Always know that someone's out there doing it better than you and learn from that. Don't ever think that you know everything in real estate, because you don't. I don't.
Yeah. And, you know, there's many people over the last couple of years who've done really, really well. But when the market turns and they've really got to use a lot of skill, they're not going to survive, unfortunately.
No, and the ability to change and to adapt and to pivot your business is key for your longevity in this industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. So talk us through maybe some people who had some impact on you through your real estate journey.
I've thought really long and hard about this. And it's probably the one that makes me the most uncomfortable to talk about, because I think that I learned through baptism of fire. I don't think I had the greatest leaders. I think I had the greatest leaders that taught me not to be that way. And that was by a couple of franchise owners who had you couldn't have gotten more polar opposite human beings. So I saw the flip side of both of them, and I saw the great in both of them, and then I saw the common denominator that ended up seeing me leave. And so from that, I worked out that if I ever was fortunate enough to have my own agency, I would know exactly what I would do and what I wouldn't do. So I was able to pick the eyes out of both those people to be able to work out their strengths, their weaknesses, their business models, and what I would change and tweak.
Yeah.
And it's hard to speak negatively of people that were employed me and have created such an amazing opportunity for me in real estate. I mean, the first one, I'd talk about would be somebody that, well, and, this is about me being honest the way I am. He used to take you into his office and feed you a shit sandwich. It was the same thing every week. It was belt you with a velvet glove, tell you, listen, you're doing really well. I'm really proud of your numbers, but you're not the best I've seen. And I certainly think that you've got more in you. And I really think that you need to focus more. So that was the big slap up the side of the head that you get. And you think, oh, geez, I've been working 60 hours and I've, listed 4 properties and done 3 sales this week. And I don't understand why I'm being belted. But he was a narcissist. And that's the way he ruled me. He told me that if I ever left him, that he would cut me off at the knees. He said he created me, that I was his Frankenstein. And he raised the bar to dizzying heights, divided and conquered in amongst his team, made his team feel that they were competing against each other instead of coming together. And you know what? The best thing was he told me to shoot for the stars. He taught me never to rest on my laurels. He taught me to have amazing work ethic in the industry, but his yardstick became my self-value and self-worth, and that's where it became unhealthy for me, because I just, unfortunately, I'm a people pleaser. All I wanted was him to love me for the job that I was doing, and for me, all I wanted to do was hit every goal that he set for me so that I could be fantastic. So the pendulum swung the other way. I ended up going to a leader that was kind and warm and generous and championed me and was grateful and took me by his side. I became his right hand, and I watched together. He appreciated my input. He explored options for me to thrive. He was just the most wonderful man, and I just adored him, and I wanted to make money for him organically, not because I had a gun to my head. I wanted to thrive. I enjoyed every minute of being a part of his journey, and he built a mediocre agency into a multi-million-dollar company. I got to work with an incredible team. I got to learn how to manage, I think, all the different little personalities in the office. And I watched from the sidelines with great delight of how he would pull the team together, and that we all thought we were the favourite, you know. And I thought that that was something that I would love to be able to take to another agency. But I would say that there was a common denominator uh, with both, and that was is that they got very wealthy very fast. They both started doing marathons, both got skinny, and both traded their wives for girlfriends. And just the ego got them, and they ended up having full crises, and they lost themselves. They totally lost themselves in their success and started to, it all became about them, and they forgot about the team that were in the trenches that got them to where they are, and stopped being consultative. Instead of all of a sudden it was like, you know, they have a new life.
Get commoditized, right?
Yeah, and you all of a sudden you lost your value. You felt that they were seeking advice from an outside party that was only new in their life. And so I learned a few things. I learned that my husband, the girls call him Charlie, and that's because if we're his angels, we don't see him. He has very little input into the office. He leaves us alone, and that's probably, wives and husbands should stay out of it unless it's that when they start. It's very hard for a team to adjust to all of a sudden having a second boss or a coach that's never worked in real estate. I think I learnt that my team will always be my success, never me, and that doesn't matter how much money you earn, never forget that you wouldn't be where I wouldn't be where I am today with awards and a successful agency without my beautiful girls. They're the ones that have created it, not me. And
absolutely.
I learnt a lot about, I know exactly what I don't want to do. And I think that's, I never ever want to get an ego to the point where I think I'm a little bit better than my team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing we see in our industry, sadly. And we just feel that, you know, they do commoditize their teams. We obviously work with a lot of teams, and we see the impact and the fallout from that. And you know, we're in an industry, the turnover of our industry is only second to hospitality. And, you know, I think to generally invest and really care about your people is absolutely paramount in terms of them, you know, take them with you on the journey.
And if both of them use the same thing, it must be a coaching line, they must have learned it from somewhere, but, you know, everyone's got a seat on the bus, and, you know, if you don't like, we'll pull the bus up and you can get off. Well, I got off both buses.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to have a bus, maybe a pink VW, but all my girls will get a chance to drive it. And, you know, I don't like that you're only as good as your last month. You've got to play the long game with your team as well. It shouldn't be just that
human people that get out of bed every day, that are driven to be in an environment that supports them, and that you all work collectively for success.
I agree. I think that the churn and burn's got to be kicked out of the industry, and that churn and burn is not just with, you know, developing relationships and networking as far as building your business, but it's also don't churn and burn your staff. Don't do it. I would never do that. And
people
I
aren't
felt
commodities,
that,
right? They're people with feelings. They've got goals. You know, they turn up for a good portion of their life to serve you.
Yeah.
And you as a leader need to give them a stable, steady, nurturing environment.
That's consultative.
That's right, not negotiable.
I lead from the bottom. I don't lead from the top. I ask my girls what they want, how they see it, what their vision is. I've got a planning day on Wednesday where we sit down and we do our calendar. We look at all our goals. We look at the business goals. We did a SWOT analysis. They give me feedback on what I've failed at. as a boss. And it's hard
There's
to
so
hear.
much, isn't there, in terms of just learning and listening to your team and taking on board and digesting all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you see, what is the difference? So like we talk about your career and it's been incredibly successful. Now have your own agency with a great team. What is the secret sauce that you have that has contributed to your success?
What's contributed to my success?
What makes you different to other agents in the marketplace that has given you so far a 20-year consistent career in real estate?
I think I don't really have two personalities. I don't have a face for real estate. I'm me.
You're just
And
authentic, yeah?
yeah, I'm just unapologetically me.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook that's ribald. I talk about um, the good, the bad, the ugly. I laugh a lot at myself. A lot of people like some of my reviews just say Christine's hilarious. And it's just, I think I'm nearly the antichrist of real estate agents. I'm probably what you don't expect. A lot of people turn up and meet me and they go, "Are you Christine Ewin?" And I'm like, "You thought I was going to be taller, didn't you?" You know, they they have this idea of who I am, and then they're so shocked that I'm just so normal. They say to me all the time, "God, you're just so normal." And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's such an odd thing to say, but I think that our reputation as real estate agents is that we're all Rottweilers with lipstick, and we're just
Yeah.
not. I'm
Oh,
just a normal girl, and I'll share my story with you, and I'll talk about,
yeah.
my what started me, and people ask me, why did you go out on your own? They all know my story too locally, and that is that um, my parents died before I opened my agency, and they were the president of my fan club. My dad used to always say to me that if you aren't honourable, you have nothing. My mum was the sort of woman, never a businesswoman, always a housewife. I'm the baby of 7 children. And she used to get on a bus and go somewhere. And by the time she got to the other end, wherever she went, she'd made a firm friend because she just loved humans and she loved to know their story. And I think I adopted that. I just was always interested in people and what made them tick and who they are. So when I had a small inheritance from my parents after they passed away, I sat on it for 4 years because I needed to make them proud and I needed to have it as their last hurrah, that if I was going to use that money, and that's what I opened my doors with. And my mum, everyone knows locally, my mum used to wear pink all the time. She loved pink. Pink was her favourite colour. So my sold signs, they're pink love hearts, so that in dedication to my mum and my dad, who were my biggest inspiration. Um, every time I put a sold sticker up, I send love to my parents, and
Oh,
that sort of stuff is just, that's who I really am. Cut away all the real estate crap. I'm Leo and Yvonne Dean's daughter, and I'm extremely proud to have, had such wonderful parents. So I guess that my line in life is that when I go into someone's home and meet them, I just imagine that if I was, what would I want and how would a daughter want me to treat those people? And yeah, we've got a huge amount of retirees in the area, and I just want to treat everyone with love and respect. And I think that's probably because I was brought up by some really good, humble country people.
mm,
So I think that
that,
really gave
that,
me a leg up.
yeah. That's amazing. And I think if we look at what actually drives us and we look at what is our internal motivation, and to have something like that, and I guess to have a legacy that you've actually built to honour your parents
Mm,
and the value that they've instilled in you,
yeah.
like that is, I'm sure they're looking down at you and they're so very
Oh, my
proud.
mum would be just like telling everybody. She would have been in the office every day. She would have been, it would have been, I would never have got any work done. They were just amazing and loved them dearly. And it's been it's a beautiful legacy to them. And I kind of, in a selfish way, I knew that if I put their money into this company, it meant I couldn't fail. Not because of divine intervention, but because I would never have let them down.
Yeah. That's amazing. So my very last question of the day, which is probably one of the hardest questions I ask, is what would be the one thing that people don't know about you?
Probably the thing that people don't know about me is that I have a very public life, but my closest friends would say that I'm extraordinarily private. So I'm a bit of an enigma, I think. I'm very private. I don't like feeling vulnerable. I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from mental health. That's always been something I've had to fight with, is that, so, I don't think I can get any more private than that, is that everyone thinks that I'm this, powerhouse, and I'm not. I bleed like everybody else.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just have to overcome it. I get mentors. I have good friendships, that people around me that I trust and love, that get me through. And there's been some very tough times in real estate and some dark times where I have an incredibly bad life balance. I find it extraordinarily hard. I suffered mum guilt. I suffered from everything that every woman out there in real estate has, that you find it so difficult to make everyone happy, and sometimes you make yourself very unhappy by doing that. So you've got to let go of some things. You're never going to hit the mark on all areas. And I think that that's a struggle that we all have, is that you just got to let perfection go. You can't be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the best businesswoman in the world, and the best real estate agent, and the perfect daughter. You're probably going to do 80%.
Tell us about your family. How old were your kids when you went into real estate?
My boys were 10 and 11 when I went into real estate, and I had a rental, and we had to borrow money for me to get a car to be able to do real estate. We borrowed money for me to do the real estate course. It was $2,500 because I did it with the Future Champions program that came with a coach. I had $1,000 in the bank when I started, so I had to back myself. Otherwise, there was no way, we were going to be eating 2-minute noodles if I didn't make real estate work. So for me to be able to go to the awards where I won the trip to San Francisco, I'd never been on a plane before. I borrowed clothes to be able to go to the formal function. I'd never been to a black tie event in my life. So real estate was a big change for me. And I did feel like a bit of a fish out of water for a long time, because I was just so blown away. But my boys, my husband retired to look after the children for 5 years so that I could be the breadwinner, because I knew something had to give. I didn't want my kids to, end up coming home and looking after themselves, because I was doing incredibly long hours. There's all that adjustment, all that family stuff, Your husband doesn't know what to do with. I remember somebody, when I won this award, and they asked me to speak at a Captain's Club industry event, and then they had a roving mic, and this guy got up and he said, "How does your husband deal with your success?" And I remember Graham Cook, who was the CEO of Hookers, he kind of looked from the back of the room, and I could see him shaking his head, because he just knew how straight black and white I was. And I said, "I think men are pretty simple creatures. All you got to do is feed them and shag them." And the whole place erupted. And it was because, you know what, it was 18 years ago. But how politically incorrect is that? Would a woman ask that? Would someone stand up and say, "How does your wife deal with your success?" And it's a moment it's stayed with me forever. And Graham Cook just laughed. He took his glasses off. He was crying with laughter. He was just like, oh, I knew that guy was in trouble as soon as he said that, because I was going to eat him alive for saying that.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, myself, a bit more, and for being our guest and being vulnerable.
I think that people need to know that.
Absolutely,
especially people in the industry, they need to know that even these people that are, looking like they're John McGrath, they're not. They're just, they're not the Messiah. Real. They're just a very naughty boy.
Yeah, exactly. I guess the thing is like real estate's what you do, not who you are.
That's right.
And there's a lot of confusion around that. There's a lot of, I guess, what do they call it? They call it imposter syndrome. Because my imposter is the little person that says, why would they want to talk to you, Christine? Half the time you don't know what's going on. Yeah. Well, you're doing an awesome job, and I want to congratulate you on, number one, being who you are.
Thank you.
Just being the real deal, because that's what this is about, right? This isn't about someone coming on an interview and being polished and perfect and trying to give all the right answers. It's like we want to see real. That. Yeah, we want to see real. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I hope that someone gets something out of it.
There is no doubt that this is made especially for someone, and it's what they need to hear at a particular time. I promise you that.
Excellent.
I will take a chance to be who I'm meant to be. I won't let fear keep me from trying. It's time for me to make a change, to start living the life I want. I'm gonna reach for the sky, way up high. I'm never giving up. It's up to me to see who I can be, make dreams reality. I'm never giving up. I'm never giving up. I'm never giving up. I'm never giving up. I won't live the life others expect of me. I want to be proud of who I'm becoming. It's time for me to make a change, to start living the life I want. I'm gonna reach for the sky, way up high. I'm never giving up. It's up to me to see who I can be, make dreams reality. I'm never giving up. I'm gonna reach for the sky, way up high. I'm never giving up. It's up to me to see who I can be, make dreams reality. I'm gonna